Next is Mr. McCauley. You have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Mr. Nobley, thanks for being with us today. You mentioned earlier that you were aware of conflicts of Ms. Van Sheeren because of your work together with the Science Innovation Council and another council. I assume that's correct?
No, that's not correct.
So you were not aware of any, you weren't aware of any conflict that she had with
No, I was aware of two things. Let me be clear.
Okay, what two things, please?
Appointment. Yeah, just a second. Can I complete my two things?
Go ahead.
One is that that as she was appointed and not being onboarded, I was aware that she had reached out to the ethics commissioner and had guidance. The second thing is I was aware that NORSTOR had received a grant from SDTC 18 months earlier. So as a deputy minister, I was aware that that grant had happened. Those are the two things I knew.
Did PCO to address the conflict?
Sorry, what I understand, I have participated in some of these interviews.
No, but you did state earlier today, the comment was you expected PCO, the Privy Council Office, to address the conflict.
No. I said that when you go through a PCO process, merit-based, that there's a whole significant activity around conflict of interest.
So, as
it's
deputy,
actually a form, and it's about 40 pages about conflict of interest.
As deputy minister, you were not.
I know actually complained about the forms.
Thanks, sir. Interrupt because I'm short of time. So it sounds like you were not aware. This is not like one case of conflict of interest, or 2, or 10, or 15. This was like 90. This is it seems like the majority of the grants contributions were conflicted. And you're saying you were not aware of these. And what I'm getting at is, I've been at committee for 9 years in operations committee and this committee and other committees. And one thing that seems above all is the bureaucracy, deputy ministers, ADMs, all are extremely risk adverse, all have a CYA attitude. And I'm trying to comprehend how there was such rampant conflict that your ADM, who would be going out of his way to ensure that he was covering himself, did not inform you of these, that you did not inform the minister. How did all of this be kept? How was all this kept secret? This rampant conflict of interest, hundreds of millions of taxpayers' money being possibly defrauded.
Let me say several things.
Sure.
First of all, I was not a deputy minister during the period of COVID when there were these blanket exceptions. Number two.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt. These are not all just COVID related. Sir, these are not all COVID related.
I'm aware of that, but having said that, as I've already testified, there was a clean bill of health.
At 2017, not at
2018 and 2017. So how would I, as a deputy minister,
these conflicts happened between 2017 and 2019 before your departure?
Pardon me?
So none of these conflicts happened between 2017 and your departure midway through 2019?
No, I understand that the Auditor General has identified these issues.
Right. Let me just ask you,
in terms of the overall number.
Sure. Let me just move on to something else, sir. Just quickly, because I'm almost out of time. The contribution agreement between ISED and STDC 2003 states 20.03. Foundation shall disclose to the minister within a month of the foundation first becoming aware of any actual or potential situations that may be reasonably interpreted as a conflict of interest or potential conflict. Were any of these reported to you to report to the minister?
No.
So
what I would say is if you look at the evaluation of 2018, there is a reference to how in the governance there needs to be improved note-taking as well as for improved
Specifically about
reporting.
the contribution
Can I finish,
agreement
please?
between ICE. No, sir, this is my time. And I asked a specific
Well, it's my
question. I'm
time,
not
too.
asking about 2017. I'm asking specifically about the contribution agreement. So at no time, 90 conflicts, $400 million, at no time was any conflict reported from the foundation, is what you're saying. As part of the contribution agreement, it's required, and yet no conflicts were ever reported.
No, I think there was, sorry, let me clarify. There is a process between SDTC and the department to report conflicts. This would go to the ADM of administration as well as ADM of clean tech. That's a process. There was one comment when I was deputy minister, when there were suggestions or recommendations that the note taking be improved relating to this, and that the SDTC ensure that it passes on information to the department. I believe the Auditor General found that that information was not always flowing.
Thank you, Mr.
Turn things
Newbley.
back over to Mr. Perkins. You have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Nubley, for your patience. I'm a little confused. I'm going to follow up on a little bit of the questions asked earlier. So, Assistant Deputy Minister Noseworthy reported to you, correct?
Yes.
So, did you do regular quarterly reviews or performance reviews of Mr. Noseworthy?
We spoke regularly. I mean, in the case of Andrew Noseworthy, as you likely know, he resides in Newfoundland. And so...
Resided in Newfoundland while he was...
Telephone. Sorry, I'm just going to say it's usually by telephone, that's all. Sorry, go ahead.
He was residing in Newfoundland all this time while he was sitting in the board meetings of SDTC?
Well, I think prior to COVID, he would go to the meetings.
Okay.
As you know, once we went into COVID, it was more virtual.
So
Again, I wasn't around. I wasn't around then. You'd have to ask Mr. Noseworthy.
Yeah, we asked him. He had similar memory lapses that we're hearing here. You have a great insight into Ms. Visharen's resume, but don't seem to remember a lot of things around SDTC. For example, Andre Lise-Matteau, who was appointed in 2016, by your own admission, had almost $20 million of conflicts while you were still the deputy. And Mr. Noseworthy never told you that was going on?
No, the only thing that I knew about Lise Matteau was that she was also a member of the CEO sector table. And she was an active member in that regard, talking about the issues of risk and venture capital relating to clean technology.
They would declare at the beginning of every meeting who had conflicts in what projects. And for the audit period from 2017 to 2023, the Auditor General, she found 82% of the time, 186 of 226 instances where directors were conflicted. That's 82% of the time. I find it unbelievable that ADM Noseworthy would sit there watching board members 82% of their time have to recuse themselves from the meeting, and that would never be reported up.
Well, again, I think you'll have to talk to Andrew Noseworthy on that. One aspect of this that I do understand.
What kind of management did you have where he was your eyes and ears, you said, in the board meeting, but it doesn't appear that the mouth worked in reporting back what he saw to you, according to you. So when ADM Noseworthy told the CEO, Leah Lawrence, that it's okay, the government's going to appoint Ms. Visharen anyway, and that will manage the conflict, did that come from you or did that come from somebody else?
Didn't come from me. I mean, the issue.
Was he taking orders from then? If it wasn't from you, was he taking orders from the minister's office, the prime minister's office? Who would have told him to tell the CEO that will manage the conflicts, the first and only chair of the board of SDTC in its whole history to have done business with it before being appointed?
Well, I think he would have known what I reported I knew, which is that she had gone to the ethics commissioner and that she had also gone through the PCO process, which has been told to you by Donalyn McClement, is an extensive
and your minister, Minister Baines, Minister Baines had an amnesia as well. But Ms. Fischerin, in her appearance before a parliamentary committee, said she didn't apply. Yes, she wrote a week later, her lawyers wrote to correct her statement, but usually the first statement is the correct one, where she said she never applied for anything in her life and that Minister Baines, your minister, called her twice to ask her to be the board chair. Would Minister Baines make those calls without your knowledge?
Yes.
He
I'm
did.
not involved in the process.
Doesn't seem like you were actually very involved in anything in the department. When you have 82% of the time conflicts going on, it seems convenient to say, oh, it wasn't me. My ADM who reported to me must have been getting orders from somebody else. Who else would he get orders from to do this, if not from you or the minister?
So one of the points that I'd like to make is SDTC was probably the smallest agency of 16 agencies that were in the portfolio.
On who SDTC
There are many appointments. I had to do them not only for Minister
So was he
Baines, but the
freelancing?
ministers assigned.
You've known him your
were
whole
the-
life, it seems, you said. Was he freelancing? Was that his nature to make things up on his own without somebody else telling him to do it?
Sorry, I don't know what you're asking.
I'm asking you that you said you didn't know who told him to say, we'll manage the conflict. You have, in your testimony today, said you've known him for 40 years. So in that 40 years of knowledge, do you know him to have been a freelancer
No.
who would go on his own?
public
Or would he
servant.
be taking orders from somebody else?
Sorry, I never said I talked to Minister Baines on this issue.
That's not what I didn't mention,
Secondly,
Mr. Baines.
in the 40 years is my service in the public service, where I was proud to represent.
No, you said
from the-
you've
of the
known.
Conservative
No, I'm
Party
sorry.
and
I'm
the
sorry.
Liberal
You
Party.
said you've known Mr. Noseworthy
Mr.
since
Perkins,
Mr.
Perkins, no, Mr.
Was he a
Perkins.
freelancer?
Mr. Perkins, your time is up. We're going to come back to you on
Oh, I
this.
see you're talking about, I apologize.
Do you want
I apologize,
to
Mr.
do you want to
Perkins.
try and answer Mr. Newbley? Mr. Perkins, your time is up. Do you want to try and answer Mr.
I'll
Newbley?
just clarify that
Sure.
I thought Mr. Perkins was talking about my relationship with the minister, not Andrew. So I'll leave it for that for now.
All right, we'll
I
Mr. Perkins,
apologize.
we're going to come back to you. You'll be able to take it from the top again.